What is going on, everybody? And welcome to the opening drive with the coach and the couch potato. As always, I am Jeremy, the couch potato. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. Episode 38, though. The Austin Spittler episode. We're just going to throw that one
Oh,
off the top of my head.
yeah.
Because I didn't know if I was going to do it or not with us kind of changing the name. Spoiler alert, your weekly episode will now be called the opening drive. We kind of figure you're opening your week with us, and I know a lot of people listen to us while you're driving. And like Coach
Yep.
Slate said, you want to drive down the field. So,
Yeah.
what is going on, sir?
Oh, not much, man. Enjoying this October heat. I
Yeah.
had to get out and cut the grass today, so that was not enjoyable. But no, it was good. Had to waste my time watching the Browns play. I know this isn't a Browns podcast, but holy smokes, I'm pretty frustrated. But we can move on. That and Bengals fans are probably frustrated as well. So not the greatest Sunday, but I get to get on here and share some time with my brother. So life is good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. The Olentangy Braves did give up a touchdown this weekend.
We did.
But in the important part, they did get the dub. So we'll throw that out there. The Indiana Tech Warriors qualify sixth at their first Tier 1 of the season.
Okay.
Losing match play 2-1 to Marion University out of Indianapolis. Shout out Coach Jordan Gray, one of the absolute coolest guys that we met through the recruiting process. So, a lot of watching live stream bowling this weekend for me.
Yeah.
So, obviously, luckily they were done probably after the first quarter of the Buckeye game, so I didn't have to multitask too long. But yeah, as bad as it was for the Browns and the Bengals today, yesterday was pretty cool.
Yeah.
35-7 should have been 35-0. I mean, if we're calling coulda, woulda, shouldas, would have loved to have had the shutout. But overall, a quick moving game, I don't even want to say it was a boring game because there's a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts.
Yeah, man. I think Iowa came out and they were playing the game that they wanted to play. They wanted to be bend but don't break on offense or on defense. I mean, force Ohio State to consistently drive the ball down the field and take advantage of the Buckeyes' mistakes, which luckily the defense really balled out and really stopped them after those 2 turnovers in the first half. They did want to come out and establish a run, man, and I was pretty geeked at the way Tyleik Williams played. We'll talk about that later, but he made a huge impact. I was pleased with the linebacker play. And the defense, you could really see that they were selling out to stop the run. And hey, Kate, if you can go beat us in the pass game, then go do it. So overall, I thought the game went about as I expected. I did not foresee, the JJ fumble. We talked about it briefly. Will Howard he has full faith in his guys, so he's going to put it up no matter what. And so I'm just going to expect him to throw at least 1 interception a game. And that's okay. I can live with that because I love the way that he responds after he makes a turnover. We saw that in the second half. So initial thoughts, man, I thought the Buckeyes handled business against a well-coached team and, one of the best running backs in the country and a really good defense. And, I love the fact that they weren't looking past Iowa to get to Oregon. They took care of business, and a 35-7 win in the Big Ten is not an easy thing to do. So, shout out to the coaches for making sure the guys are ready, and it was a good game for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of good. I really liked to hear Seth McLaughlin getting his flowers from the commentators. I thought that was well deserved. We're only 5 weeks in, and it's finally, coming out. That was obviously the biggest thing. Obviously the Jeremiah Smith hype train is in full effect. I saw a lot of people claiming the touchdown was PI. There was hand fighting going on both sides. So I think it was a good no call, not just because it was Jeremiah that scored. I don't care what the situation is. It reminds me of the old, it was a Michael Crabtree play. I think it was like a 49ers Seahawks game. And there was, it was like a brawl to get to the ball.
Yeah.
If it's going both sides, they're not going to throw the flag.
No.
I'm curious to know what the Carnell Tate issue is.
Yeah, me too.
Medically, obviously. I'm sure it's a situation where Ryan Day is going to come out this week and say Carnell could have played if we needed him to.
Yeah.
But Ennis the Menace, played decent. Bryson Rogers played decent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that either one of those dudes brings the blocking vibe that Carnell does, which is going to be super, super important this coming week.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to follow that. I think you're right with Will Howard. It's just a given that there's going to be a pick at some point in every game.
Yeah.
But when you're throwing 4 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns and running for 1, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is in no way, shape, or form a true comparison. But like I told you before we came on the air, I watched Aaron Rodgers this morning. His decision-making makes Will Howard look like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And so I'll take that. I'll take a dude that has faith in his guys to go make a play. On the pick, like you said, he needs to read it a little bit earlier. To me, it's even a situation where even with the late read, if he puts just a hair more air under the ball, it's a catch. So I'm not going to beat him up too bad about that. But, the good teams will make you pay in that situation. And Iowa's defense is good.
Yeah, they are.
Ohio State just exploited them where we talked about on, before the battle. That's where the opening is with our athletes at receiver.
Yeah.
We didn't kill them running the ball. I think we ran for like 170 yards total, which is still good. I think we got to 200 total.
Yeah, we got to 203
because they made the comment when we took the knee in victory formation that you could hear the sideline yelling, "Don't lose a yard."
Yeah,
which I thought was cool because it just goes to prove what you always hear in the post game. And Ryan Day will say, "We need to look at the stats." Ryan Day knows the stats.
Yeah,
in the middle of the game, he wanted 200 yards against that defense, which had not given up a rushing touchdown all year.
Yeah, and that's crazy. Phil Parker, they are going to try to stop the run. They got one of the best inside backers in the country in Wiggins. That dude he's a dog. I mean, you saw the forced fumble on JJ. He was in on every tackle, I felt like. I mean, the guy just flies around. And so their defensive line, they're going to be a true 4-3, true 4-2-5 at times, and they're just going to really force you to make mistakes. And that's kind of the philosophy that Ohio State has kind of adopted these last 2 or 3 years. And so to adopt that philosophy, that just lets me know that they have a lot of respect for Phil Parker and what he does. And so I thought Iowa's defense, did well to start out the game. You never want to be, you're never going to be upset about creating turnovers. The one interception that Will Howard threw, a deep out from the opposite hash, is one of the hardest throws for a quarterback to make. And I would trust our guys every time to go make that play. But I think Will's just got to release the ball a little bit earlier. And if he does it, I think it was to Emeka, he was wide open. So he would have been open, but the ball was a little underthrown, a little behind him, and allows a DB to go make a play. I think that's something that Will is going to really beat himself up over. He's going to go back and watch the film, and he's going to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I'm looking at the stats right now, man. I mean, 11 Warriors has our stats up, and they say, we have 412 total yards, 209 yards passing. That includes sacks, and then 203 yards rushing. So very efficient.
You can't beat that.
And very balanced. You would like to see the pass yards maybe be a little higher, but a lot of those pass yards came in the second half. And when you have 3 turnovers, 2 turnovers in the first half, and you get a turnover on downs, those are things that you're going to limit your possessions. And so we've got to make sure we eliminate those things. But if you look at, Will Howard's day, we were 21-25 for, 200 and whatever yards in the passing game. Like that's pretty efficient for a quarterback. 10 yards per completion. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. 10 yards per completion. I mean, you can't really ask for much more than that in the passing game. And so, this is what we expected from Will Howard when we brought him in. He didn't have to go throw for 300 yards like we expected C.J. Stroud to go do. He just needs to be efficient. And if he throws for 225 to 250 yards a game and, limits turnovers, has 2 or 3 plus touchdowns, and is able to really help us out on the ground as well, like he did, we're going to be a very hard team to beat. And I'm glad we were able to get this on film against a really good defense, a well-respected program, and so they can see like, hey, going into next week against Oregon, we got to make sure we're locked in. We have to limit these things, and so I think this is a really good game for the Buckeyes to really come out in the second half and dominate and really, close the door before the fourth quarter started.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, 21-25 for Will. I mean, he also carried the ball 10 times, which you called it. He said we were going to start to see some QB run. So overall, a very effective day. JJ would have had another touchdown, and Will would have had another passing touchdown if that ball's just got a little more air under it. And but it's hard to overthrow a dude like Jeremiah Smith. He's fast. So a lot of people don't understand that. One thing I just looked up, we definitely saw the bench get shortened. There were only like 6 freshmen that played. A lot of those guys have played a lot of snaps already. Jalen McClain, James Peoples, Peyton Pierce, Aaron Scott, JJ, and Edric Houston. So that was interesting to me. But, with that freshman class, a lot of those dudes weren't brought in to contribute this year. So you can't really look a ton into it. I just found that interesting. I always try to look at that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Snap counts isn't out yet for the week. 11 Warriors does a great job with that. I really like to break that down and look through it.
Yeah.
We talked about Caden McNamara, less than 100 yards. And if I had to hear one more time how Caden McNamara had a W over Ohio State, I was going to vomit.
I know, man.
Obviously, who knows? We look back on that game, and that was the start of the 3-game stretch against the team up north that we haven't been able to win.
Yep.
So I understand letting him have his moment. But the thing that really obviously jumps out, we beat it until we were red in the face the other night. Caleb Johnson. If you take away his 2 longest rushes, they were each 28 yards, one of which was against the backup defense.
Mm-hmm.
He ran the ball 13 times for 42 yards.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. That dude's good. That O-line is good. And he was 12 of 48 through the first 3 quarters against the starting defense. 28 of that was on one run.
Yeah.
So 11 for 20 and 3 quarters. They talked about during the broadcast, Jack Sawyer was fired up about the comments, about I wouldn't have came to Ohio State even if they offered me.
Yeah.
I think Sonny Styles, you saw Sonny jawing a little bit with him, and some of that's just Ohio on Ohio too. Those pick boys are built a little bit different.
Yeah, they are. Man. And a lot of the times, I've seen this in the recruiting process with some of, the players I've been fortunate enough to coach. If you're from Ohio, you want the Buckeye offer. I don't, that you grow up, whether you live in Toledo, whether you live in Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, wherever you live, you want that Buckeye offer. And if you don't get it, there's a chip on your shoulder. And so if you're going to play against him, you want to make them feel, the impact that you could have had for them.
Yep.
And so like coming into that game, I know that he was ready to go and he probably was coming in with that chip on his shoulder. But it's important to know, like, listen, but the Buckeyes do recruit Ohio guys. And like you said, the Pickerington guys, the Ohio guys on the team, they don't take it lightly that they are, were offered scholarships and asked to be a part of the Ohio State Buckeyes brotherhood. And so, coming into that game, if I was Caleb Johnson, I would have probably had the same mindset. I probably would have said the same thing because I want my guys at Iowa to know, like, listen, you chose me. Right. You showed faith in me and these guys didn't. So I'm riding for you guys. I'm going to go out here and ball out and do whatever I can and make them pay for not offering me. Luckily the Buckeyes really came to play up front and really shut down what they wanted to do in the run game and really forced Cade to have to beat us. And so he didn't get to have that little bit of a swan song that he may have wanted, which I'm not mad about, but I'm not going to take away anything from Caleb because he's a baller. He's really good. And I think the rest of the season, he's going to do some really good things. And, I like what I see from him. And I was really pumped to see the way the Buckeyes played against him.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, was the emphasis of the game. Just to throw a couple more numbers out there before we dive into good, bad, ugly, Buckeye leaves, that type of thing. Jeremiah, 4 for 89 with a touchdown. He did have the fumble, which was the ball was a little loose. You always hear hold it high and tight, but as a receiver, very rarely, unless it's like a slot guy, do your receivers hold the ball like a running back. A lot of receivers tend to get a little loosey-goosey with it, and Jay Higgins made him pay. That's why the guy's an All-American. Emeka Ibuka, 9 for 71 and 3 tutties. I mean, this dude's unreal. He's so much better than he gets, praised to be.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I guess leader is the word. They said it yesterday. The guy is a leader. He has taken Jeremiah under his wing. They roomed together on the road, which, we got a whole whopping 3 road games this year. So, but, those dudes are tight. You see them. I read a lot into players' social media as far as, like, you always see those guys sharing each other's stuff. You're not going to just throw that out there, especially in the NIL day and age, if you don't legitimately care about a guy like your brother.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that is something that I don't want us to ever overlook when it comes to Emeka and his story with the Buckeyes. He could have gone to the NFL even after not being healthy, kind of like Jackson Smith and Jigba did, and still would have been a first or second round pick. And he'd be playing right now and he'd be making an impact on some NFL roster. But the fact that he decided to come back, like, that needs to be a part of his story because, he would be making more money in the NFL. Let's just be very honest about that. I mean, he's making good money when it comes to NIL. But the fact that he wanted to stick around and honestly is kind of taking a little bit of a backseat to JJ, like, that's not an easy thing to do for your ego. And that's why I think the culture around the Buckeyes and not just the receiver room, but the whole team, it's something just feels different. I'm not sure if it's going to equate to us, winning a natty or anything like that. I hope it does, but there's just something about this team that is different. You can tell that they're having fun. You can tell that they're enjoying being out there with each other. You can tell that they have confidence in Coach Kelly and what they're doing offensively. You can see the defense and their mindset is really trying to, get the ball back to the offense and find ways to do that by any means necessary. And so it's just fun to watch. I was watching the game with a couple friends and my wife, and, we're only up 7-0. And, normally I'm like anxious, like, dude, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But it's just like, listen, like, I have so much confidence that this group is going to come together when they need to come together. And that is one of the coolest things to see, watching the adjustments that we made defensively, seeing us be really stout in the run game and not doing the things that we talked about last week, flying upfield with the defensive line and different things like that. That shows me that these guys are willing to sacrifice some individual gain to do what's best for the team. And when they do that, they're going to get their shine as well. And so it's just a fun freaking group to watch, man. I'm just very pleased that, we've got this group of guys that chose to come back. And, right now their story it's really good. And, hopefully it continues. We got a tough opponent this week, but this group is just fun to watch, and it's night and day difference from what we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It is fun. The culture really does seem to be different. I've always said that, Ryan Day just recruits good kids, and I think you're starting to see that. You don't see, this is kind of to diverge from Ohio State for a little bit. But if an Ohio State kid did what Malachi Moore did at the end of the Alabama Vandy game, they would probably not play another down the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about an Ohio State kid doing that because that's not how they're made.
Yeah.
And they know that the rest of the team would be disappointed in them, especially a kid who's a starter. If you didn't see that, search it up.
Yeah,
it's a disgrace. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, and I watched a good chunk of that game. Once I saw that they were down at halftime, I was like, okay, I got to actually watch this game, the Alabama Vanderbilt game. And I'm not going to bash on Bama. I think Kyle DeBoer is a great coach. I think that's his first name. Coach DeBoer is really
Kalen. Yep.
Kalen DeBoer. He's a really good coach. He wins wherever he goes. Alabama will be fine. I'm not worried about that. But I love that this just goes to show that just because you have the nice NIL packages, you're able to get the best recruits in the country. Like, college football can still be college football. And on any given Saturday, if you don't have your A game, you can lose. I mean, bottom line, like, that's just the way that it is. Alabama is night and day better than Vanderbilt when it comes to athleticism, arguably when it comes to coaching, right? They've got a great coaching staff, but Vandy just went out and executed and did what they had to do, and they made plays when they needed to. And that's going to be, something that's talked about all season long, right? The post-game interview with their quarterback, he drops an F-bomb, and
I loved him.
Yeah,
I love it.
The commentator she's not even upset because he's so excited. His whole entire family's there. Like, I know people say, college football is different and everything because the kids are getting paid.
Watch that game.
But go watch that game and tell me college football is not. I mean, I could watch college football all day long in comparison to the NFL because it's still like, at Ohio State, Alabama, all these top programs, Oregon, they're able to drop some bags and really get the guys that they want to come there. But Vandy's not doing that. Vandy doesn't have the capability of doing that, especially around the football program. Maybe the baseball program they could, because their baseball program is always one of the best in the country. But the football program's not dropping, millions of dollars to get these kids to come stay, right? They got to actually go out and recruit and make their job hard. And, this quarterback, if he was a freshman or sophomore, I forget what class he is, he could go out the rest of the year and ball out, be first team all conference. And next thing you know, he could be at Michigan next year as their starting quarterback because of NIL. You know what I mean? Like,
they need something.
Yeah, that's just the way that it is. So that game just made me feel like good. Like, listen, college football is still college football. So shout out to Vandy for getting that dub. A little bit of a tangent there, but that is why people love college football, is because of
absolutely, like seeing a goalpost being carried down Lower Broadway was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess we'll dive into our weekly good, bad, ugly. This was kind of hard because, obviously, especially where I wear the fan hat. I mean, we're both fans.
Yeah.
But, as we do this, I try to wear the fan hat and speak, as the cynic, I guess you would say. So from the good, though, the run defense, obviously, we've talked about it. You held one of the best backs in America in check. I want to see these guys against Boise. I'm just going to call the shot. Like, let's put it good on good and see what happens.
Listen, that running back at Boise State is the truth.
Yeah,
he's so good.
Betting favorite to win the Heisman now.
I
would have never thought in my wildest dreams we would see a dude from Boise potentially win the Heisman outside of Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
So along with the run defense, obviously a group we have harped on. I'm going to say the linebackers yesterday fall under good.
Yeah.
Cody Simon is going to be Cody Simon. Arvell was out there just kind of holding it down, but Sonny Styles.
Yeah, man.
I got a text from our boy John Ratliff after the game last night talking about how happy he was with the way Sonny played. And, Sonny looked good. He's getting more comfortable, more confident, and that's good because yesterday started kind of the meat of the schedule.
Yeah.
So seeing him be able to build on these things is good. Along with the defense, obviously turnovers. These guys are ball hunting.
Yeah, they are.
And IGB getting a pick was nice to see. That dude's dangerous with the ball in his hands.
He
He looked really good running that ball back. And then obviously the O-line. Run game looked good against a pretty stout front seven. Will Howard had clean pocket, and people don't understand how much of a luxury that is. Even though Will Howard is a giant and can see over most of his linemen, having a clean pocket is so nice.
Oh, it's huge, man. It is huge, especially when you have an athletic quarterback back there that it's able to escape. I would like to see Will maybe do that a little bit more sometimes, but he's got the offensive line, especially in the pass protection, has done a really good job of keeping him protected. And so, yeah, the offensive line they were definitely part of my good as well, for sure. I was very pleased with how they played both in the run game and the pass game.
Absolutely. So that's all I've got for the good. I'll go ahead and let you dive into yours before we get into the few that are bad.
Yeah. So for me, the offensive line, I just mentioned the reasons why. Listen, this is the most scrutinized group, arguably, in the country. I said the state, in the country. I think it's important for people to understand that, and I'm just seeing improvement each and every week. And I feel like the Buckeyes and the coaching staff and Coach Fry's not going to get enough credit for the work that him and Coach Cellini and Coach Drevno are doing with the offensive line. He's not going to get enough credit. It's all going to be Chip Kelly, right? That's all people are going to say. But I can assure you that the coaching staff is doing a really good job of making sure that they're playing to the strengths of the offensive line, and they're doing it more so than they have in the past. And so, to be able to go out and rush for over 200 yards against this type of defense, and I believe we're right around 200, maybe more averaging per game, which is, if you would have told me that, we were going to average over 200 yards this year, I would have been skeptical to begin, because, we haven't done it in a few years. And so to see that, it's really good, man. Josh Simmons is, I hope he starts getting more and more recognition. I hope he plays well against Oregon so that people will start talking about him more, because I spoke with a former player of mine that's at Ohio State now, and he talked about Josh Simmons having Trent Williams-like athletic ability. And so, that was the first thing that he said to me when I asked him about, the offensive line room. He was like, Jimmy Simmons is insane. And so I hope he starts getting the recognition that he deserves. But the O-line, definitely my first good. The second good was the defensive line for me. I thought the defensive line played discipline. I thought they, really corrected a lot of the mistakes that we saw the previous week and the week before that when it came to the run game, us trying to get upfield and do too much. I thought they played really disciplined. They really did a good job of squeezing down the edges instead of working hard upfield. And then obviously having Tyleik Williams back was a huge game changer for us. He's just a hard guy to block. And when you get him back, that allows Ty Hamilton to really do some one-on-one things out on the interior as well. And it also frees up Sonny and Cody and Arvell to fly around and go make plays. And so those are definitely my two goods that I wanted to focus on, would be the trenches, the offensive and defensive line, because that's where we're going to win the rest of the year for sure.
Yeah, and you said something about freeing guys up. We did finally see the Caleb Downs blitz.
Yeah.
We did blitz Caleb, which obviously I'm sure that will be included once you have film access when we start talking about next week.
Yep.
Man, next week. Whoo!
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Can't wait. Bart Scott voice. So for the bad, I've only got two things, and both of them are absolutely nitpicking. The short yardage QB run play call.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have went there. You had just ran a similar play a couple plays before. They're starting to sit on that type of thing. Will Howard's a giant. It was 4th and 2, I think, 4th and 3. So you can't really sneak it, but you could definitely do some type of delayed, straight up the middle run that's going to give you a better shot than that. That just didn't work. And the other thing, I wish we would have took some guys out sooner. You saw it on defense. I don't love, with Oregon on deck especially, get the guys out of there. I understand you want to keep the edge, but you can build the edge back the way this team's built. The last thing you want to see is just some garbage time injury.
Yeah. I agree with that. The big thing that I have to remind myself because I said the same thing on Saturday, but then I started thinking you know what? This is only Sonny's 5th game being a linebacker. So it's Arvell's, first time actually playing in college. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you want to get those guys reps, and so I totally get it. I get why we kept some of those guys in there a little bit longer than we did. The running backs, I would have probably taken them out a little bit earlier, specifically just because James Peoples is a dog, and I think where there wouldn't have been a drop off. But I totally get it. Like you said, you want to keep that edge, you want to keep that mojo. So I get it. I'm not really going to beat them up on it, but I said the same thing on Saturday. But they kept him out there for a reason, and they make a lot more money than we do. So
exactly,
they get paid handsomely to make those decisions. But the only bad thing that I have is the turnovers. 3 turnovers. It's not going to. 3 turnovers is not going to win you a lot of games. Like, fortunately, we were able to go out and clean it up in the second half and go, beat a pretty good team. But this week, Oregon has the potential to really hurt you and take advantage of those type of things. And so if you have 3 turnovers and you're not able to really, shut them down or hold in the field goals when you turn the ball over, it could be, and I don't want to say a long night, but it could be a tough night to get back into it. And so, the turnovers, we got to get those cleaned up, but I know, Will Howard will take better care of the ball. I just know that he's going to put the ball in harm's way at least once per game. And it's going to be a 50-50 ball, and we'll see what happens. And, JJ, like you said, with the ball security, that was also a great play by Higgins. Like, there's certain things that you just can't, or Wiggins, whatever his last name is. There's just certain things that you cannot take away from them. That was just a great play. Keep the ball high and tight, though, and that doesn't happen. So that was the only bad thing for me. And obviously getting stopped on 4th down, that can't happen. You got to make sure you get those things. So, clean those up. But, it's really the only bad thing I had, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to not digress to Oregon because, like you look at the Oregon-Michigan State game. Will they make you pay?
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't wait. Just a full disclaimer, that before the battle might be like 6 hours long because that game is just, that's what we as college football fans live for, are games like that. It's a top 3 matchup now.
Yeah.
So as far as the ugly goes, I don't have a single thing ugly for the Buckeyes.
Nope. Nothing.
For the Saturday that was college football, though, I've got 3 things that are ugly.
Okay.
The Michigan Wolverines. You now are on your 3rd quarterback of the year. And ninth year guy. I mean, this guy might be older than Chris Winkie and Jack Tuttle. And he looked competent for about a drive and a half. And then we realized, they still can't block. They still can't, So they've got some more losses coming this year. I fully anticipate that they are going to self-impose a postseason ban in an effort to try to get out in front of everything. Wow, that's really going to go really far with the NCAA because they know you suck. SEC road games. Yeah. I mean, Bama loses on the road. Arkansas loses on the road. Shout out to Vandy's social media and like game day team, because I don't know if you even saw this yet, that after the game they played the Nick Saban video from game day, where he said the only place that's not hard to play on the road in the SEC is Vandy. That game was just insane. And ACC officiating for the 2nd week in a row, the golden children that are the Miami Hurricanes, yes, they gave up. Cal gave up quite a lead, but blatant targeting missed. Miami reaps the benefits and continues to be undefeated until they play somebody with a pulse.
Yeah. The Michigan game, that was interesting. I'm just shocked a little bit because we know as Buckeye fans, if we were 4-2, the world would be over, and there would be screaming to fire everybody. And coming off a national championship, the expectation is for you to still have a really good roster, right? And I'm not saying that they're like bad, because I still think they could give a lot of teams problems. I still think the running backs are solid and their offensive line is young and they'll figure it out. But the quarterback play is just what gets me. And you can't attribute that to anything other than Jim Harbaugh. And as a Buckeye fan, he's going to go down as somebody who, in Michigan lore forever, because he was able to beat Ohio State all those times at the end of his tenure and then win a natty, regardless of however they did it. But then he left his team with nothing. And like that, to me, that as if I was a Michigan fan, I would be extremely frustrated with that. And that's not a knock on Jack Tuttle. I actually think I think he played okay. His first game back in a while. He did some things, but he also made some major mistakes. But then it just goes to show like the development of Alex Orji. Like he's the same guy that he was when he arrived on campus. And you know what I mean? Like, and then you've got a freshman that's on the roster and Jaden Davis, and you must not have any faith in what he can do. And you know what I mean? And so like, it just kind of, if I was a Michigan fan, I would be very frustrated with the state of the quarterback room specifically. I'm not going to trash them. I'm not going to trash them because they beat us the last 3 years. But it was nice to see Washington get a little bit of some get back on them from the Natty from last year. And it was a physical game, man. It was a physical game. It was pretty fun for me to watch from a defensive perspective. But yeah, I don't know what's going on up there.
Yeah, I think the frustration, partially you let CJ Carr walk. You let Bryce Underwood, who plays a mile from your stadium, walk. I'm going to be real interested to see their tone change in about 2 months. Because right now, all the hatred over everything is toward their AD. I saw a guy blaming their AD for the assistant coach hires. Harbaugh's it's Harbaugh's fault. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Not only did he dip on you when the roster fell apart, but he's going to essentially be the reason your program's about to get burnt to the ground. It's going to be bad. Now, yes, there's going to be lawsuits and injunctions and all that type of thing. But at the end of the day, the thing their attorneys are going to have to look at is, do you really want discovery? Because discovery is probably the worst thing for you.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So that kind of, sums up the Iowa game, Iowa week. We'll do our Buckeye leaves, and then we got a couple recruiting tidbits today.
Okay.
This weekend's been a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
So my first Buckeye leaf is going to go to, and I apologize, I wasn't totally prepared. I only have cards to show for 2 of the 3. But number 1, Emeka Egbuka. This guy is just unreal. I mean, he's going to be a first-round pick. There's no other way around it. I still get major Chris Olave mold out of him.
Yeah.
I think that's a great, mold for him to follow. And we see Olave killing it in the league. Garrett Wilson had a really good morning today too.
Yeah, he did.
Number 2 is Sonny Styles. I think he deserves, some props. And then my third one, I went back and forth between Will Howard, but with the pick, I can't go there, so we're going to go with Jack Sawyer.
Okay.
I love watching this kid play, man. He is just what you want out of a defensive leader.
Yeah. Yeah, Jack Sawyer is the man. I'm a big fan of his. Hopefully he finds a way to end up in Cleveland. But
I wouldn't wish that on him at this point.
All right. So for me, my Buckeye leaves, we share one in Emeka. I am just enamored with this guy, man. Like he quietly has 3 tutties and nobody even talks about it. They're talking about JJ's catch. Right. And I get it. I totally get it, but he just goes about his business. He shows up, he's a willing and physical blocker. He just does all the nitty gritty things that you want from zone 6. And it's great because, I think about the history and the culture of that room, even before Brian Hartline got there, watching Terry McLaurin today. Like, yes. I get a lot of those vibes from Emeka when it comes to doing the dirty work, right? Terry McLaurin, he wanted the ball every now and then, but I don't think he really cared. I think he just wanted to go out and do his thing, right? Exactly. And go out and do whatever they needed me to do. I'm going to go block. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then when they give me the ball, I'm going to do something with it, right? And so Emeka gives me a lot of those vibes. I'm not comparing them as players. I think they're 2 different players, but from a culture mindset, from an attitude and leadership mindset, I just get a lot of the same vibes from them. My second Buckeye leave is going to go to Seth McLaughlin. you brought up earlier, was glad to see him get his flowers and everything. I just love the fact that we have such a veteran presence at center who is really the quarterback of the offensive line and really helps, the run game get going. And he does the little things right. I mean, we'll show you guys on film when we do the Before the Battle episode. There's so many good little details that he does. Even when he may be outmatched a little bit, he's just such a savvy vet and does some really good things with his hips and with his hands that, even though he may be outmatched, he's able to take care of business and do his job because he is so savvy and he's got all these starts under his belt. And in my last Buckeye lead, before I give out some silver bullets for the defensive guys, this is really super under the radar, but I think Will Kazmarek is getting better and better every single week. He doesn't get a lot of targets. He had one catch and was a really good game that he got. But when it comes to the blocking and the run game, I really think he's doing a really good job. And the better our tight ends are in the blocking schemes, the better our run game is going to be. And so he's really giving me some like Luke Farrell vibes, man. Like I really get a lot of those. Like I'm a blocker first, but if you need me to go make some plays in the pass game, I can. And he just has to continue to get acclimated to playing at this high of a level. Right. Coming from Ohio, it was a little different. You could see things are starting to slow down for him a little bit. Defensively, I got 3 silver bullets I got to give out. Sonny Styles probably played his best game as a collegiate athlete. I love the way that we're using him in those 3 linebacker sets. We often talk about wanting the jack out there, and he is that pseudo jack for us right now. When we are in those 3 linebacker sets, you'll see him walked up on the line of scrimmage at times. You'll see him back. You'll see him out over top of number 2 or in the apex of number 2 in the end man the line of scrimmage. Like they're doing a lot of different things with him, which I love to see. And I thought he played very confident and fast this week. Yes. And I'm not a big trash talker from my guys, but I loved seeing that from him because that lets me know that he's feeling confident about where he's at right now. If you watch Sonny in previous games, there wasn't a lot of chirping going on. There wasn't a lot of this. But you could tell, all right, things are starting to slow down. I'm starting to make plays. Like now I've created an expectation for myself. I'm going to let you guys hear about it when I go make a play. IGB, didn't get defensive holding, but he got a pick, man. I hate to think about next year, but we need to pay him whatever he needs. We need to pay him a lot of money to come back next year, not go to the NFL because he's a dog. Like he is a true SEC type of corner. And I love having him in our defensive secondary, with him, Lathan, Caleb Downs, and Denzel Burke. Like it doesn't get much better than those 4. And then, let's sprinkle in Jordan Hancock and now, and Lorenzo Styles too. Shout out to him because he played well as well. And then the last one, Tyleik Williams, whatever we got to do to keep him healthy and on the field, he's a game changer. And so those are my 3 silver bullets, man. I think the defense played so well. I can't wait to watch the film tonight before I lay my head down on the pillow after the football meeting. I'm going to watch a little bit of the film. So I'm excited to see what we see on the film and see how well those 3 guys on defense played.
Yeah, and you hit on something with Kazmarek. I'll be real interested to see snap counts because his playing time is definitely, stock up.
Yeah.
And shout out Luke Farrell too. That dude is just chilling in the league, doing his thing, blocking for Sunshine, catching some passes from him. So yeah. Little bit of recruiting news for the weekend, and it actually applies to the Oregon game.
Okay.
The much rumored reclassification of Jakeem Stewart.
Yeah.
He came out, announced he's reclassified to 25, has locked in 4 officials. USC, LSU, Ohio State, and Oregon are his 4 finalists. Ironically enough, there's one team he's going to get to watch twice. He will be in Eugene Saturday.
Oh, nice.
And then he'll also be in Columbus for the game. So first visit, last visit in a way. So that's very interesting. Ohio State's definitely a player there. It's going to be hard to pull him from LSU, though.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then earlier today, I don't know that this is going to apply to Ohio State. Dwayne Galloway decommits from Purdue.
I saw that.
So that'll be interesting to see. I don't think that's where Ohio State pivots if Naeem offered decommits. I think there's other guys out there they would pivot to. But Alfred's dad is still saying all the right things on social media.
Yeah.
And like we've talked, it's hard to turn down the essentially hometown school.
It is.
But Auburn's a dumpster fire, man.
Yeah.
And then Chris Henry Jr. out for the year with a knee injury.
Yeah, it sucks. I saw that.
Makes me kind of glad for him that he didn't reclassify.
Yeah.
Because now he's got time to get right.
Yeah.
So that'll all be interesting to see on the recruiting front. The kid we offered who's committed to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Is taking an official. That is also happening. I forget which game, but just to kind of throw a little bit of recruiting stuff out there. But now we look onward at a top 3 matchup, game day on site. It's gonna be wild.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge, man. I think we're pretty evenly matched. I don't think they face an offense like ours, and so that's going to be a little bit of a test for them. And I don't think we face a defensive line like theirs, and so that's going to be a test for us up front. But I'm excited for it, man. Oregon does a lot defensively that I enjoy seeing with their defensive line, and you hope Josh Fryer on the right side, really come ready to play because they're going to try to exploit that right side. I can almost guarantee it. And so the running backs and the pass protection, they're going to have to really be on their P's and Q's and really take care of business. But I think the Buckeyes, I think it's going to be a good one, man. So I'm excited to get talking about that this week.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Want to give a belated birthday shout out to loyal listener Tyler Emmerich.
Yeah.
My man's up in his feelings about getting old. I'm like, dude, 40 ain't all that bad.
No.
He said he needed a wheelchair because it's all downhill from here. So,
oh my gosh,
that dude's out there. He does more on a weekend race than a lot of people do in a month. So shout out him. I think to sum Iowa up though, that's pretty much all I've got.
Yeah, that's all I got too, man. Great win for the Buckeyes.
Yes, absolutely. We will see you guys later this week, obviously before the battle, the big one. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. As always, thank you guys for your support. Thank you to the Barn Baseball and Softball Academy, Cornerstone Home Remodeling. We do it for you guys, and we hope you enjoy this week's edition of the Opening Drive.